You are Locked On Rockets Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Houston on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Man, oh man, that was not easy tonight for the Rockets to hold on, but they found a way to do just that as they take down the Memphis Grizzlies after holding a very large lead early in the game that turned into a very small lead as the game moved on, but it does not matter. They get the win. They did set the tone early. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about riding those waves that this team can put you through sometimes. And should the Western Conference really beware now of the Rockets as they've played Memphis twice? They've made a couple of statements overall as they've gotten those wins. This is the Locked On Rockets Postcast here tonight. Thank you for joining us. I am your host, Michael O'Connor. Appreciate you guys. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to the channel, like and comment as well. And then, of course, listen to this wherever you can get your podcast as well. The Rockets tonight getting that victory over the Grizzlies 119-115. I mean, look, as I put up there in the graphics, they set the tone early. Now, the tone may have changed a little bit, but here's what you did tonight. You did your thing in terms of grinding it out. And there is a bit of grind it out with this team at times. And that's okay. You have to be one of those kind of teams. Maybe. You know, we've talked about offensive limitations quite a bit. But this team, to win on a nightly basis, is going to have to do some things and overcome some periods of ugliness. And there was a lot of ugliness tonight. I mean, my goodness. Could they please hit a free throw? I mean, you just talk about that's always one of the simplest things to go back to. It was, you know, it's you guys know what it is. If you've played sports in your life, like I always equate it to if you've ever played golf. And I've got a golf hat on tonight, actually. I'm a huge golfer. If you ever played golf, you know that sometimes, like it's happened to me, you get the yips on the greens. And when I say the yips for you non-golfers out there, it's where I'm not talking about on the greens, but around the greens, where you're chipping your little short shots with your wedge in your hand. And you hit one bad one, like you hit off the hosel or something, and it shoots off directly on the ground on the right. You shank the you-know-what out of it. And it just opens the floodgates. And then the rest of the round, you can't chip the ball. You reach the point where you're just putting it from the rough. That was Alperen Şengün tonight out there on the floor, I should say, at the free throw line. He was absolutely, for a guy that had such a great game, you know, led the team offensively there in that first half, had a 20-point first half, slowed down a little bit in the second, but had a 32-point night. 7 of 15 from the free throw line tonight. The Rockets almost missed 20 free throws in this game. 24 of 21 from the charity stripe. 57%. Memphis knocked down 70% of theirs, 21 of 30. But just think of that. If you nailed your free throw, if you nailed half of those free throws, what was that missed? How many is that missed? 17, 18? What was that? I'm not a mathematician off the top of my head. 17 free throws, right? You missed 17 free throws. If you hit 8 of them, not even 8, give me 6. Hit 6 of them. You're walking out of there with a 10-point victory tonight. And I'm not as stressed out about it down the stretch. That's okay. That is okay. I do want to talk about the emphasis of the early start, the way that they played early in this basketball game tonight. I was impressed with the way that they came out. You know, Memphis has always been a team. You know, this might not be the same level of Memphis team throughout the years prior to this, the eras prior to this. I'm talking about gritty. They've always had gritty style of basketball teams. That's small market. You're never going to get anybody to come play there that's going to sign there. You could trade for somebody, draft guys. That's the only way that they're going to get anybody to play there. But they always had these teams that, grind it out and, play physical and whatnot. And tonight the Rockets came out. That was what I was impressed with earlier. Is they came out and made a statement immediately when it came to physicality. Now, this team plays with a physical nature of basketball, of course, all the time. It's what they do. That is their calling card in the Ime Udoka scheme. That's what he is. But I like the fact that it really felt like there was an emphasis tonight on coming out and being extremely physical and setting that tone right there from the jump. And they did exactly that. And, towards the back end of that first quarter, it did get a little bit hairy. I mean, they gave up 30? They ended up giving up like 36 points in that first quarter. But I thought they played physical the entire time. I thought early they really played fast, which was good. I think they caught Memphis on their heels, expecting it to be a slower basketball game tonight. And that really kind of set the tone early that, hey, you cannot bully this team around. Not that the Rockets are, going out there and getting bullied around by most people or anybody, I should say. But I thought that was something that stood out really in that first quarter. I mean, you go back and look at it too. I mean, offensively, and Alpe had 16 of his 32 on the night in that first quarter. He was tremendous. Jalen was tremendous with 13 in that quarter. That's why he scored 45. Only end up, when you score 45 points in a first quarter, you kind of go, man, you only scored 119 tonight? I'm not going to harp too much on negative on a night where you won a basketball game against a team that is right there in the thick of it in the Western Conference with you, that you've now beaten twice this season. Rockets took down Memphis on the 25th of October. That one was 128-108. This one 119-115. See them again next week at home on the 13th, and then one more time at the end of the month on the 30th. And that game on the 30th, by the way, is a national TV game. Look at the Rockets stepping up in the world. They got a few national TV games coming up. But again, you're playing a team that coming into tonight is right behind you there in the Western Conference. They're the 3 seed at the moment. And the Rockets improved, by the way, to 25-12 with the victory. They're 5.5 games out of the 1 seed. And look, here's what's happening. Here is what's happening. We'll talk about this more later because of the statement of the Western Conference. The Rockets are starting to build a cushion for the top 4. They are. They absolutely are. This is a team that is pacing well to win 50-plus games this year, right? I'm not a mathematician. I would assume that this pace at 25-12 means they're going to win over 50 games this year. Wins like this do matter against teams like this that you should absolutely go out there and beat. So about riding those waves that they put you on, though. Some of the bad from tonight that puts you back into those spots. That makes it difficult. That this team has to figure out that when you get those kind of leads to consistently put it away. We'll talk about that here in a few seconds on the Locked On Rockets Postcast. Right now, though, I need to tell you guys about the Gametime app. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite memories was attending a concert last year. The energy and excitement, it was unforgettable. Now, Gametime has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events, whether they're new with their new feature, Gametime Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. It's pretty darn cool. There's so many great features in that app. I've told you guys about the Gametime app quite a bit. You should get in there and try it out for yourself. You'll absolutely love it. Look, maybe you're looking to get into a big-time game. If you're trying to get into a Rockets game moving forward, download the Gametime app right now and get yourself going. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code and redeem the code, I should say, LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It is game time. One more message before we get back to our Rockets discussion, because they knocked down the Memphis Grizzlies tonight. And actually, as we're speaking of Rockets, let me tell you about Rocket RX. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Rocket RX. If you're ready, I should say, to boost your confidence and take control in the bedroom, Rocket RX has the solution. Imagine feeling more prepared and performing at your best. Rocket RX makes it simple and stress-free. Rocket RX offers FDA-approved treatments for erectile dysfunction at a lower cost than branded alternatives. No more uncomfortable doctor's visits or pharmacy trips. Everything is delivered straight to your door in discreet, plain packaging. With Rocket RX, you'll get trusted care from a real U.S. clinical team. Complete a quick 100% online consultation, and you could get your free prescription today. Visit rocketrx.com to get started now. It only takes 2 minutes. Right now, our listeners can get 40% off your first order when you use code Locked On NBA. That's rocketrx.com, code Locked On NBA for $40 off your first order. Terms and conditions apply. Rocket RX, better sex made simple. Locked On Rockets Postcast tonight. Sorry, the Rockets game tonight really it has, like they said in Seinfeld, these pretzels are making me thirsty. That basketball game tonight made me thirsty because I was sweating watching the Rockets go out there and get that victory tonight over the Memphis Grizzlies. 119-115 is the final. The Rockets improving to 25-12, on the season high. And welcome to all of you tonight. Appreciate you stopping by and watching live to the Locked On Rockets Postcast. Of course, if you are new to this channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to like, comment, hit that button, and then, of course, come back and join us for every show moving forward, because this Rockets team is a lot of fun to watch on a nightly basis, and we appreciate you guys stopping by for that. If you're looking for this show in its audio form, go ahead and search for Locked On Rockets anywhere that you get your podcast. It's absolutely free. You get this show plus the daily Rockets podcast. You have this show, the Locked On Rockets Postcast, which we do live right after the game. And then, of course, you have the podcast, the daily one, 5 days a week from Jackson Gatlin, who does a wonderful job covering your Rockets. Go and check out his work as well right there. Again, appreciate you guys stopping by tonight as the Rockets get the victory over the Memphis Grizzlies. Talked a lot about setting the tone of the game early on. Now, there was the riding the waves of it after the Rockets set that tone early on. You know, I feel like I repeat myself with a lot of things at times, and because there's in any sport, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, there are certain things that are always true. And in basketball, one thing is always going to be true. No matter how big of a lead you build in a game, at some point, the other team is going to make a run. Now, the run shouldn't be prolonged. If you build that big lead, you need to find a way to keep it as it is. But sometimes that team is going to get back into the basketball game. Now, Memphis did that tonight. And in large part, they started to chip away at it in the second quarter because the Rockets came out offensively. I mean, look, I think they put up, I was keeping track of it. I watched the first half walking on my treadmill. It's usually what I do. And they did, I believe, 4 points the Rockets scored in the first 4.5 minutes of that second quarter. Very sluggish. So after putting up 45 in that first quarter, they put up just 4 points to start off that second quarter. And that kind of got the ball rolling for Memphis in terms of, scoring a lot. And sorry, my dog just came in and he just jumped on his chair. There's a chair over here in the corner that he always lays on. He's an old man. He just ripped a huge fart. Now he's trying to get comfortable. Totally distracted me. I don't even know where I was going now. The Rockets, though, kind of started to let them get back into it. And, they just didn't have the same offensive punch in that second quarter. They did score, end up scoring some. I mean, they scored 23 in that second quarter. And they let Memphis back in though with 27. Memphis had some runs there. They didn't shoot the ball very well in that quarter to the Rockets, and they were kind of forcing things. But you went to halftime, you held a 5-point lead. You were hoping for more, 68-63. The problem was coming out of half, I think pretty typical of the Rockets. They come out, they play very well to start the second half. I think that's kind of one of the things that you see is that this team is very good at coming out and being great early in the first and early in the third. And then when they get later into crunch time towards the end of the half and towards the end of the fourth quarter, they have a little bit more trouble. And at times tonight, I never think that defensive effort's a massive issue. It's not like Memphis went out and was unbelievable in that second half offensively. I mean, they scored what did they score in the second half? Second half, they outscored the Rockets by a point. But you just let them linger a little bit, right? You let them linger. You let them get back into it. And then, honestly, Memphis clunked a bunch of shots late. I mean, they had a lot of really good wide open looks in those last couple of minutes of the game. A couple wide open threes, nobody on them. I think Kennard in the corner a few times. Just couldn't knock them down. They have to kick themselves for that. I mean, John Morant didn't really have a night that was really anything worth writing home about. He went ice cold from three. He was ice cold for a minute there. I think he ended up missing like 3 consecutive free throws. He still found his way to 27 because he's always going to score, but he wasn't very efficient overall tonight to get his points. But the good thing that the Rockets kept forcing, and they didn't force a lot of them late, but they did force a lot of them in the basketball game. Really one of the stories I talked about the free throws early and how that kind of is part of the story of the Rockets not putting the game away like they should have because they missed so many of them tonight. But they also, I think you saw the differences in these teams. The Rockets, and this is something that's been very good of them this season, they play a very disciplined style of basketball. And, I think we were, from the sports gods, we in Houston were probably due for this after all the years of watching the James Harden era where the Rockets teams turned the ball over left and right. And it was just the Daryl Morey era in general. It's like they didn't care about turnovers. They just cared about chucking threes. As long as you chuck enough threes, all the other things didn't matter, and you'll eventually win the game if the numbers play out. This Rockets team doesn't play that way. They do not turn the ball over a lot. And tonight, I think you saw one team that attention to detail, doesn't turn the ball over much versus a team that played a little bit more on the sloppy side of things. The Rockets overall tonight forced Memphis into, where's my final box score here? I'm on the wrong side of the page. Memphis had 19 turnovers in the game. The Rockets had 12, and the Rockets had a whopping 31 of their points tonight off of those turnovers. That is probably the most indicative sign of this game tonight of why Memphis lost and why the Rockets won. And again, you could have won by a lot more if you had knocked down a few more free throws, and we wouldn't be sitting here, talking about, it wasn't supposed to be that. It didn't have to be that hard. But again, a win is a win. That is all that matters for the Houston Rockets. And that's exactly what mattered tonight as they got that victory over Memphis. And now, you know what? You can keep this thing going on the road. They go to Atlanta on Saturday, which, by the way, I'm going to attempt to do Saturday's game. Now, it's tricky because Texans are at 3:30. The Rockets are at 2. I need to see how the Texans games. We will have a Texans show. Wade Smith and I will be on. The Rockets would end probably towards the end of the first half. I'll probably do that. Like always, I have the ability to do 2 things at once. I'm going to have one game on this screen, one game on the screen that's next to me here. We'll probably be talking both on Saturday. But let's talk about the Western Conference and why the Western Conference needs to keep taking note of this Houston Rockets team because of nights like tonight. While there was ups and downs, the waves come, the good and the early, some of the bad late. They continue to make a statement to a Western Conference that they are not going anywhere, and you have to respect what they are doing and expect them to continue to be there down the stretch as they look to be one of the strongest teams in this conference. We'll talk about that next year on the Locked On Rockets Postcast. I want to take a moment to introduce you to a brand new mobile game that I'm really excited about, Ultimate College Basketball HC. If you've ever dreamed of being a college basketball coach, this is your chance to step into those shoes. In Ultimate College Basketball HC, you control every detail of your program, from recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps, handling NIL deals, and managing scholarships. It's all in your hands. And when it comes to game time, you get to draw up offensive plays and set your strategy. The way you play won't just affect the current season, it will shape the future of your school's basketball program. It's a game that lets you feel the full weight of what it means to be a head coach and lead your team to glory. Here's a special offer for Locked On NBA listeners. Use promo code LOCKEDONCBB, and that is in all caps, inside the game store to get a free boost for your program. It's the perfect way to kickstart your coaching career. To download Ultimate College Basketball HC, just visit ultimatecbb.com or look it up on the app stores. Ultimate College Basketball HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. Locked On Rockets Postcast tonight. I am your host, Michael Connor. Thanks for stopping by. A gallon of water is here as well. As we're talking, the Rockets win over the Memphis Grizzlies tonight. 119-115 is the final. The Rockets kind of led by their big three, right? Yeah. Jalen Green, Fred VanVleet, Alperen Sengun. No, I know that Fred VanVleet's not played, to his best capabilities this season shooting-wise, but 27 out of Jalen, 22 out of Fred VanVleet, 32 out of Alpy, 14 boards to go along with that for Alpy tonight. Hey, I wanted to give a shout-out to, he didn't play a ton of minutes. I kind of wish he did at times, but I get why Alpy, really got a ton of minutes. He was, offensive force. Steven Adams came in again tonight. He's really starting to look a lot better physically, and I think his minutes have been really good, and he went out. I mean, he's a rebounding machine. I really starting to think that we're seeing, we know exactly why they got him for defense and for rebounding ability, and he has shown his rebounding ability quite often, like he did, there in that game tonight. 9 rebounds in 12 minutes for Steven Adams. Those minutes do matter when he's out there. All right, Western Conference. A weird conference this year. It continues to be weird, correct? OKC lost last night to Cleveland up there in Cleveland. It was the battle of the 2-1 seeds in the league this year. God, Cleveland's a monster over there, man. They're 33-4, and OKC had won 15 in a row coming into that one. I think both Cleveland was riding a streak and OKC was riding a streak. This Memphis team is right behind the Rockets. They've got a 2-game cushion over the 4 and 5 seeds, which are the Nuggets and the Mavericks. The Rockets 5.5 out of OKC. They have a 1.5 cushion now over Memphis, and they, of course, hold a tiebreaker. Well, I shouldn't say they hold. Well, technically they hold a tiebreaker right now. They've won the first 2 matchups against this Memphis team this season. So the next game is going to very much matter for this team to go ahead and take that season series and, keep yourself ahead of them. But I think that nights like tonight, when you play another Western Conference foe that is up there, and even if this Western Conference might not be as lethal as it has been in years past, look, that's part of the beauty of this. You look at the West, the Rockets can get deep in the playoffs. They should expect to get deep in the playoffs, even if they have offensive limitations that concern me. When you get to an end of a game and you saw it tonight. The Dylan Brooks chuck 3 there at the very end. Like that's not a good offensive possession. That's not an offensive possession that you need to happen at all. But if they could get to the point where they get somebody or whatever it is, that they're a little bit more lethal offensively, this team can really make a move in the Western Conference in the playoffs. They really can. They are set up to do that. The defense that they play, the rebounding that they have, just the tenacity, the physicality of it. And each night it feels like they're buying more into their identity, into their culture, into what they do. And I really do appreciate that. I appreciate that as a fan, watching that every night, seeing their commitment to what they do. It's practice what you preach, correct? They absolutely practice what they preach as a basketball team every single night. But I think if you're the Western Conference, you look at a night, the other teams in the West, you look at a night like tonight, you're scouring what goes on. You go, man, Rockets going in there as into Memphis on the road. And you look at what this team's done on the road they've been tremendous on the road this year. I think they won, it was a total of 14 games last year on the road. That was their 12th away win this year. They're one of the better away teams in the entire league. There's only 4 teams with more road wins than them. Cleveland, Boston, the Knicks, and Oklahoma City. That's it. That's a really impressive, part of this season for this team so far. They're not scared of anything. And again, it gets back to they practice what they preach. And I know that they had their little rough stretch there at home recently, that 5-game homestand that you would have, really liked for it to go a lot better. They coughed a couple of those games up. But overall, there hasn't been a lot of that this season, and they keep making statements, I think, on a nightly basis that this team is not going anywhere. They're going to stay in that top 3 in the West all season long. Truly believe it now. Absolutely believe it. Man, is it fun to have good basketball back. It has been a long time coming in this city after years of bad. We were due for something good, right? And let this just be the first of many years of it for this basketball team and this core group that they've got there with the Houston Rockets. That will do it for us tonight. Appreciate you guys, as always, stopping by and watching the show live. If you're new, hello. Hit the subscribe button. Come back. We'll do it again Saturday. We'll do it again twice Saturday. We got Rockets. We've got Texans Saturday. So we'll have shows for both. One team season could end on Saturday, not the Rockets. It could be the Texans. I don't think the Rockets season is going to end as quickly as the Texans will when it comes to the playoffs. But don't forget to join us for that as well. Both of those on Saturday. You guys have a great rest of your Thursday night. Again, I'll talk to y'all a couple times on Saturday for the Locked On Rockets and Locked On Texans postcast.